Francesco Bagnaia's future at Ducati is no longer the certainty it once appeared to be, and that alone represents a remarkable shift in the MotoGP landscape. A rider who has delivered multiple world titles for the Borgo Panigale manufacturer is now facing questions about his long-term security, largely due to an inconsistent 2025 campaign that has exposed cracks in what was once an unshakable partnership. Bagnaia has made his intentions clear. Publicly, he wants to remain with Ducati and continue the project he has been central to since joining the factory team in 2021. Ducati, for their part, are understood to be prepared to give him time potentially into the early part of the 2026 season before they're reaching a final decision on his future. That patience, however, is not unconditional. The reality of modern MotoGP is unforgiving. Performance is currency, and Bagnaia's fluctuating form throughout 2025 has inevitably weakened his negotiating position. For a factory like Ducati, now rich in rider options and technical strength, sentiment alone is no longer enough. If the same inconsistencies persist, the risk of Bagnaia losing his factory seat moves from theoretical to very real. That sense of danger was underlined last September when MotoGP pundit Neil Hodgson suggested that there was as much as a 90% chance of Bagnaia being dropped. Italian media have also fueled the narrative, at one point describing a split between rider and manufacturer as almost inevitable. Whether those claims prove accurate or not, they reflect a wider truth. Bagnaia is no longer untouchable. Yet unlike many riders who face uncertainty at the factory level, Bagnaia is not without protection. If the worst-case scenario unfolds, he appears to have one of the strongest safety nets in the paddock. The most logical destination, should Ducati decide to move on, is VR46 Racing Team. Bagnaia's roots within Valentino Rossi's academy make that connection feel natural rather than forced. He is not simply a potential signing, he is part of the VR46 lineage, shaped within an environment built on trust, familiarity, and long-term thinking. VR46 has already proven itself as a haven for academy graduates. Franco Morbidelli, Marco Bezzecchi, and Luca Marini have all passed through its garage with varying degrees of success. At present, Morbidelli's position is far from secure, while Fabio Di Giannantonio, despite holding a direct Ducati contract, has yet to fully convince. That leaves space, both technically and politically, for a rider of Bagnaia's stature. MotoGP journalist Adam Wheeler has described VR46 as an exceptional safety net for Bagnaia, and the logic is difficult to dispute. A move there would reduce immediate pressure while keeping him within a competitive structure he understands deeply. The parallels with Morbidelli's situation in 2025 are clear. A talented rider stepping back from the factory spotlight to rebuild confidence and form. There is also a strategic layer to consider. Rumours of VR46 potentially aligning with Aprilia from 2027 add an intriguing dimension. Such a shift would mean Bagnaia could remain within Rossi's sphere while stepping away from Ducati machinery entirely. For a rider whose identity has been closely tied to Ducati's success, that would represent a profound change, but not necessarily a negative one. Despite his current dip in market value, Bagnaia's career record remains elite by any objective measure. He is one of the few riders in the MotoGP era to have secured multiple Premier-class world titles and sits comfortably within the all-time top 10 for race wins and pole positions. Those credentials ensure he will never be short of interest. Yamaha and Honda are both understood to be monitoring the situation closely. Honda, rebuilding aggressively after the loss of Marquez, are once again casting a wide net. Yamaha, meanwhile, are aware that Fabio Quartararo's patience is being tested, and any future restructuring could reshape their rider lineup dramatically. Speculation linking Yamaha with Toprak Razgatlioglu only adds further complexity to an already crowded rider market. Still, Logic suggests that if Bagnaia must leave Ducati, VR46 represents the safest and most coherent option. A switch to Yamaha or Honda would be bold, even radical, a complete reinvention rather than a reset. That kind of move carries enormous risk, but history has shown that for champions under pressure, radical choices can sometimes reignite greatness. For now, Bagnaia remains a Ducati rider. But the fact this conversation is happening at all is telling. MotoGP moves quickly, loyalty has limits, and even world champions must constantly justify their place. Whether Ducati and Bagnaia can rediscover the stability that once defined their partnership may determine not only his next contract, but the direction of his career entirely. What complicates Bagnaia's situation further is Ducati's own evolution as a factory. The Desmosedici has arguably become the most complete bike on the grid, which paradoxically reduces tolerance for rider inconsistency. When the machine is capable of winning with multiple riders, the spotlight turns more harshly on those who fail to extract its full potential every weekend. In that context, Bagnaia's recent struggles have not gone unnoticed within Ducati's hierarchy. There is also an internal cultural shift at play. Ducati have moved decisively away from a single rider philosophy, favouring instead a system-driven approach where performance data outweighs reputation. Titles earned in previous seasons still matter, but they no longer guarantee immunity. For Bagnaia, this represents a new kind of pressure, one where past success buys time, but not certainty. From Bagnaia's perspective, the challenge is as much psychological as it is technical. Riders at the top level often speak about the burden of expectation, and Bagnaia has carried that weight since becoming Ducati's reference point. When results fluctuate, self-doubt can creep in, and MotoGP offers little space to reset mentally while the season is still in motion. This is precisely why the VR46 option carries such appeal. Beyond machinery and contracts, it offers emotional stability. The Rossi environment has always been designed to protect riders from external noise, allowing them to focus purely on riding. For Bagnaia, returning to that structure could act as a recalibration rather than a demotion. Importantly, a move to VR46 would not necessarily signal the end of Bagnaia's ambitions at the very top. On the contrary, it could position him as a leader within a satellite project, shaping development and reclaiming momentum without the suffocating demands of a factory seat. History shows that riders who step back strategically often return stronger. The wider paddock is watching closely because Bagnaia's fate could trigger a chain reaction. One factory decision has the potential to unsettle multiple teams, opening doors for younger riders while forcing manufacturers to reassess long-term plans. In that sense, his future is not just a personal matter but a key piece in MotoGP's competitive puzzle.